Now, I briefly mentioned this in my last video, but I sank a fair amount of hours into Far Cry 2 recently after randomly craving the game through sheer boredom. Now, why Far Cry 2? I don't know, but after actually thinking it through, I remembered how dodgy Far Cry 2 was to play. Now, I actually enjoyed the game quite a lot when I initially played it, but never ended up completing it because I guess I got bored of the gameplay loop of do a mid-mission, drive 2 hours while constantly dying, only to do another mid-mission, all while shooting invincible enemies with guns made of tinfoil and pure resentment. Surely there was something I was missing about this game. Something I can change? Well, yeah, I'm playing on PC, so the answer's mods. Now again, I can't stress enough that the setting and atmosphere of this game when I initially played it off the back of Far Cry 3 blew my mind. It felt way grittier than its counterpart and felt like a way more grounded experience. The boats felt slow but interesting, the cars had a great mechanic, and the map itself is really interesting with lots of varying locales. The only really blaring issues with the game were the combat, the inaccurate as fuck guns, so by extension the combat ×2, the bullet sponge enemies, so combat again, and the fact that when you leave an outpost you just decimated, they'll respawn almost immediately, so yeah, again, more combat. Come to think about it, the main issue with the game was the combat. Plus the weird 2010 filter over the game that screams the best way to make a game gritty is to literally rub grit into your eyes and go colorblind. Still, there was always something special about this game, and with the power of mods I can actually go back and play what I wanted from this game. After all, this is more or less the last Far Cry game that isn't, you know, outpost, radio tower, outpost, another outpost, boss, outpost, final boss, end credits. So what mods did I actually get? Well, barely any in honesty. There's this mod pack you can get containing 2 smaller mod packs called Redux and Realism. This makes the weapons actually do an appropriate amount of damage, so shotguns feel like shotguns instead of nerfed blow darts, and the rest of the weapons actually do damage to enemies, with headshots being especially useful. Weapons also do more damage to you, however, which completely changes how you play the game, with me actually having to employ a few Tarkov tactics as to not get absolutely fucked by the local population, which I do appreciate. Now going to the outpost system for a sec, that's been more or less fixed, with outposts taking half an hour of real time to repopulate, which is far better than the 30 seconds it takes you to leave the fucking area. The more minor changes come in the form of graphics and UI. The piss filter has been joyfully taken away, revealing the actually good graphics that could have been lost to time had this game not had a weirdly active fan base. And most minor of all, fonts and UI have been reworked so icons and signposts actually look handwritten, which sounds really dumb, but it does genuinely make the game feel more modern, as I'm pretty sure the font used in the signs in the past were the default fonts for fucking Photoshop. Either way, now that the game actually feels more modern standing up to the Far Cry experience of today, well, standing up to the good ones anyway, how does the game actually feel? Well, put bluntly, fucking great. The guns are still about as accurate as my drunken retelling of the plot of Dexter, but they hit hard and enemies are finally satisfying to drop. You also die in about 5 hits though, so that leads to amazing moments of running from cover to cover, scared for your life, while quickly taking out waves of enemies, with all of them finding better positions instead of charging you like before. Almost reminds me of something like Stalker, or in a way a less hardcore version of Tarkov set in Africa, but I've also been playing a lot of Tarkov recently, so that's probably where the comparison comes from. I don't know, but that also doesn't mean that the mod is without its issues. But there are honestly only 2 I can think of. First off, no DX10. Sorry, but if you try and run it in DX10, you'll have loads of issues to the point where the mod's website says about 5 times not to run it on DirectX 10. Second, some areas just aren't designed for this type of gameplay. I remember a specific area full of metal houses that was near impossible because as soon as you get spotted, enemies just fucking dome you through the buildings by firing vaguely at you. And because there are something like 50 enemies and their bullets go through these buildings like butter, that essentially means kill 50 angry men with AKs with no cover, no body armor, and a dream. Now this area got me a little bit mad, but hey, haters are gonna hate, or some shit. Issues aside though, this is the game I wish Far Cry 2 was. A gritty game with good combat and an interesting setting with a lot of approaches to every situation. Shame the stealth is still kind of dog shit, but in fairness, they're modders, not God. But this all brings a really fresh approach to a Far Cry game, with a focus on survival and missions as opposed to checking boxes off a map like some kind of murderous tax collector. with the story actually being kind of interesting and grounded instead of whatever the fuck is going on in Far Cry 4's pegging Jong-un versus rebels and your dead mum. I think if whatever the fuck Far Cry 7 is going to be took this approach instead of copy and pasting the formula of the previous 6 fucking games with updated graphics and calling it a day, it would actually be an amazing release. But that's a bit far-fetched, like asking for world peace or for everyone to just stop oil. Fucking Britain. I think that's more of an alternate timeline kind of thing instead of something that would actually be within the bounds of reality, sadly. Ah well, at least we have this weird time capsule of when companies tried new things, updated to fit with modern standards. Plus, the game itself is like $4 on CD keys right now, and the mod is free, so if you want to give this a go, it's not exactly bank-breaking. So go ahead, I'd highly recommend sinking 30 hours to the game, but the Elden Ring DLC also just came out, so you're probably just gonna do that instead, so whatever makes you happy, I guess. Anyway, as I said, I've been playing a lot of Tarkov recently, so that's probably what the next video is gonna be about. Bye.